What's up, guys? You're listening to the Airtime Misfits podcast. I'm your host, Adam, alongside Nick,
What's up?
and we have an episode for you that will hopefully get you fired up because we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be talking about Drachen Fire, formerly located at Busch Gardens Williamsburg.
It's been a while, so stay tuned. Drachen Fire opened up in 92, closed in 98. It was a very short-lived coaster
Yeah,
that,
very short.
yeah, a lot of enthusiasts. I mean, this is one of the most infamous defunct attractions just because of how short it was, short of a time it was around. Um, and, the amount of hype that went into it. It
Mm-hmm.
was really coming at the dawn of the B&M boom, I would
Yep.
like to call it.
Yeah.
And so Ron Toomer and Arrow really tried to, I think, mimic that design, that classic B&M design with uh, features like a Cobra roll, which Arrow never completed again after
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this travesty.
Yeah.
Double corkscrews and or interlocking corkscrews, my fault. But yeah,
Yeah.
so just some quick stats on this thing. It was 120 feet tall, so pretty decent
Yeah.
size,
That's a
all
good
things
size. Yeah.
considered.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the wraparound corkscrew at the top,
Yeah.
sort of
Like halfway
similar.
down the hill. Yeah.
Yeah, it made me think whenever I see like POVs of it or anything, it makes me think of like Steel Curtain maybe or something like
Yeah.
that, where it's
Yeah.
not quite a barrel roll.
Right. Yeah, I would say, yeah, probably Steel Curtain is the closest comparison. Yeah.
Really unique. And but I can see probably how, if it was a painful experience, how that would have just been awful. That
Right.
would have been the
Uh-huh.
worst, probably the worst element on the whole ride.
It just
um
looks kind of awkward. Like,
yeah, super
yeah.
awkward, and like
Uh-huh.
I feel like it would be jarring, just kind of
Uh-huh.
the way it looks. But yeah, 60 miles an hour top speed, 5 inversions. So with 5 inversions, if this thing was gonna hurt, it was really gonna hurt. So
Yeah. Especially, yeah, going 60 miles an hour through it. Yeah. You want,
yeah.
if you're going to have that many inversions, you want to have a smooth coaster. And this was another one of those classic aero coasters with the over the shoulder restraint where you got all the head banging and where they had guests remove the earrings before you ride so you don't come back to the station with, blood pouring out of your head.
Yep, Adam, you would have had to take out your hoops from the 90s, right?
I would have, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this coaster was very much inspired by B&M. And actually, the design of the coaster was based on initial designs that were put together by B&M because
Hmm.
the Busch Garden Company, Anheuser, they hired B&M to build them a coaster. They requested two coasters, but at the time, B&M couldn't fulfill the order of the two coasters as soon as they wanted it. And so Busch Gardens had to settle for one coaster, that coaster being Kumba
Hmm.
at Busch Gardens in Tampa. Then so Anheuser-Busch brought in Arrow to complete Drachen Fire. And yeah, I think initially the design that B&M put together did have a vertical loop that went around the first drop or
Hmm.
over the lift hill.
Hmm.
Arrow couldn't figure out how to do it. So
Yeah,
they
their track is just so clunky,
right,
I
yeah.
can't imagine how they would have been able to.
No, especially like with their, the typical support structure that they use with it, which they did not end up using on this coaster. They use more of a B&M style support structure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Since they couldn't figure out the vertical loop wrapping around the lift hill, they end up doing that like corkscrew halfway down the drop was like their alternative.
Right, yeah.
Hmm.
And that's sort of become a trademark drop, I suppose. And the other thing to note about, Arrow coming into the picture here was that the price point that Arrow was able to provide of 4 million,
Yeah, that's
only
low. I
$4 million.
saw that. I was surprised at how low of a number that was. And I know, this would have been 91, 92.
Yeah,
So, in today's money, that could be, maybe 8 million or so, but
sure,
still
but
seems like a low number for a steel coaster.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what inflation has done to the dollar from, that point, but yeah,
Right.
like you said, I mean, I can imagine it would be equivalent to maybe 8 million, but today, I mean, you're lucky to get an SBF spinner for that kind of price. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really cheap.
Yeah, like for any like a B&M dive coaster or B&M hyper, I mean, you're looking at 20 to 25 million,
Easily. Yeah.
like once you add in all the construction and
And the
uh
theming and all
yeah,
that. I
all
mean,
that.
all
Yeah.
things considered.
So 4 million, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that the coaster was only open a short amount of time, but at least it wasn't like a super expensive coaster.
Yeah. And the theory I guess I have during this time period, early 90s, I mean, you really had three main manufacturers that were big on the market. You had Aero, B&M, and Vekoma. And Vekoma was really starting to, push out their boomerang model and their
Hmm.
SLC and all these things. So something I've really wondered, had they contracted Vekoma, which I'm sure their price point would have been comparable to Aero,
Yeah.
all things considered. Had they contracted Vekoma, would this thing still be up today? And the reason I think that is because Vekoma did a lot of weird coasters. Think about Ninja, well, Blue Hawk now,
Yeah.
right? That was around during this time period.
Hmm.
And that was a pretty unconventional model, I would say. I mean, it wasn't a cookie cutter
Right.
boomerang SLC. So, I wonder if one of those more, like a different prominent
Well, someone more
manufacturer back in the day.
experienced with this type of coaster, yeah, I
Right. And
probably would have. Yeah.
I mean, I can understand the hype behind getting an Arrow because at the time they were a legacy manufacturer. They built some of the greatest coasters of that time.
Hmm.
B&M again, B&M was still really young, so they probably wouldn't have been as expensive as they are today. But at the same time, like I feel like it was a real oversight to just kind of look past Vekoma because a
Hmm.
lot of those Vekoma coasters. Again, that have been built during that time period are still around today. Maybe they're not the smoothest around, but like they're also not the worst. I mean, I can't imagine it would have been as bad as this atrocity Arrow built.
No, I would think not, and especially, I mean, you have to keep in mind too, like it wasn't like this coaster aged over time and got rough. Like
Right.
within the first month, it already had a reputation of being a rough coaster, and the ridership depleted quickly on it. People just weren't interested in rewriting it.
Yeah.
And I would think a manufacturer like Vekoma probably could have handled a coaster of this magnitude probably a bit better just because they were more experienced with this type of coaster, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
I would think Busch Gardens probably had full confidence that Arrow could do it, and they had Ron Toomer on board to design it or help
Who is a
design it.
genius? Who
Yeah,
is a coaster genius to his defense? Yeah.
yeah, he's a legend, and so would assume they probably felt like they were in good hands, but it just didn't turn out that way at all. And I think even the opening, they brought in Dana Carvey for the grand opening of the
Yeah, they
coaster, and
did.
he was
They
supposed to
did.
ride it, and they had some problems where he couldn't ride it because they had some technical difficulties on it. So
Not excellent.
no, no,
Not
no,
excellent.
no. So it was just kind of a disaster from the start. And they even, I think, in 1994, to kind of alleviate some of the painful complaints about the ride, they removed one of the corkscrews. So it went from 5 inversions to 4 inversions. I mean, I'm assuming it improved the experience a little bit, but obviously not enough because the coaster still ended up closing in 98. And then
Yeah.
it stood standing and not operating for a few years after that. It wasn't
Till
removed.
2002.
Yeah, so I think they tried selling it, but they couldn't get anyone interested in buying it, and eventually they just tore down. And while it was standing, people wondered like, will it open again? What is their plan? Are they going to modify it? Are they going to bring in new trains? But no.
Wonder what the equivalent of an RMC treatment would have been back in the day. Like, because this
Yeah,
this coaster would
right.
have had potential, but I mean,
Well, I
man,
mean, yeah, I mean, I wonder could they have done something like what they did with Phantom's Revenge?
yeah, I mean, give it a higher Morgan, higher man. Damn it, had Alan Schilke been around,
Right.
man,
Because
he would have been able to make it work.
I do think this coaster had some really cool elements. Like I think the first drop is really cool. It was unique, and there was a really nice airtime hill after the drop. and then it went into that Cobra roll. But maybe some improved tracking and improved trains. It could have been better, maybe.
Yeah, I'm.
Probably a bunch of trim brakes too.
Oh yeah, I mean, based on the way that it sounds like this thing was just a monster, like just
Yeah.
really, really brutal. Some trim brakes probably would have done it some good,
Yeah.
which we normally aren't a fan of. But if it helps the pacing and doesn't break your
Yeah.
neck, then go for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but part of me is kind of okay that I'm not ever going to be able to get this credit because it sounds like a potential replacement coming in could be even more exciting or unique. I don't know.
Yes. Yes. You're referring to Drachen Spire, which
Drachen
is
Spire.
which is the rumored name for it, or maybe that's just the name us enthusiasts came up for it because it's
Yeah.
perfect. But I think this was pre-COVID. Busch Gardens filed a height waiver request with the township there,
Hmm.
and that was for a structure that was going to be placed on the land where Drachen Fire was, and their height request was for a structure of 355 feet above the ground.
Yeah.
And then with that, there was also a release overhead like site plan of the coaster layout. So it was a shuttle coaster, I believe, by Intamin.
Hmm. Part of me is always like, since the news came out about, I mean, because this would have been, gosh, I can't remember the timeline. Like, if the news broke about Draken Spire before or after Pantheon,
Mm-hmm.
but it was right around the same time that
It
like news
was,
broke.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I remember being a little confused because it seems odd to me that you would have two similar. I
Yes.
mean, I know there's differences between the alleged Drakenspire and Pantheon as it is, but it's similar enough that I would wonder, like, would
Yeah.
they really do this? Like, I don't know.
Well, right. Yeah, I agree. It is odd that they would choose to do another like shuttle style coaster with multiple launches, like the
Yeah,
forwards and backwards launch, because yep, you do that on Pantheon. And yeah, Pantheon's more of like a full circuit coaster experience. You still kind of get those same like thrills. So I would
yeah,
think something like a full circuit Giga Coaster would better serve that park
definitely.
rather than like this shuttle style coaster. And like the spike, the 355-foot spike is cool because it does like, rotate up similar to like how Wicked Twister at Cedar Point does. So it would look cool and it would be a cool like centerpiece for the park, but I don't think that's necessarily the right move for the park. Like it doesn't seem like what they need. Because even
No.
their last few coasters, Tim Pesto, you have the launches,
Yeah,
uh
yeah, that's true.
Pantheon,
Hmm.
Verbolten. Does that have launches?
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Like a mid-course launch. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I mean I won't complain.
No, I mean, I'll take whatever at this
Yeah.
point. Um, this is debatably the most beautiful park in the
Hmm.
nation.
Hmm.
So whatever they put there, they're going to knock it out of the park with theming and with just kind of a backstory and just really investing into the coaster
Oh
itself.
yeah.
Probably
And
better than they did with Drachen Fire in the 90s.
yeah, I would think so. And that area of the park back in Oktoberfest is a cool area of the park. So it'd be tucked in behind Verbolten.
Yep.
I don't think I mentioned this yet, but the station for Drachen Fire is still standing. They currently use it for haunted houses during their Halloween event. So I don't know if the plan
Yeah.
would be to reuse it for the new Giga coaster or to tear it down and build something new. I'm not sure, but
I think it would be really cool if they kept it and paid homage, whatever you want to call
yes,
it, to
yeah.
it. Because I mean, you're starting to see that more and more. Where like, the one thing that comes to mind is the little Easter eggs, like the little track of Rolling Thunder that's underneath El Toro
Yeah.
into the
Uh-huh.
Great Adventure.
Hmm.
Son of Beast station is still up.
Yep.
So I would love it if they were able to incorporate, like, especially if they call it Drachen Spire, it's like, okay, you have to like
Right.
somehow have
Yeah.
something there to make that make sense.
Hmm.
But to go back to just kind of what would fit in that park, yeah, I mean, a Giga. The thing that worries me about that theory is they SeaWorld Entertainment has really established a positive relationship with Intamin, which is interesting because Cedar Fair has kind of like withdrawn from that relationship with Intamin,
Yeah.
for various reasons. Primarily, I think I-305 really did that in.
Yeah. Well,
But
and Topswell Dragster,
oh, and Dragster, I mean,
yeah.
they have had they've had rough luck. But Intamin right now really seems to be focusing on the launch style type coasters. So I really think if they do contract Intamin, we're not likely to see a true full like circuit giga coaster like
Right.
Millennium would be or something like
Yeah.
that.
Because it seems like, yeah, they've gotten more into the launch. I love Intamin coasters. Those are my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my first choice for Busch Gardens, but yeah, something more like a full circuit I-305 type of coaster would be
Yeah,
cool.
I would love to see them because, like you said, I mean they've got plenty of launches in that park. You know,
Hmm.
something kind of unique. Whether it's in the sense of a full circuit giga or maybe like if King's Dominion close by doesn't get a wing coaster or something like
Hmm.
that, maybe that's really tall. You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
I mean a giga wing coaster would be nuts.
yeah.
Um,
It would.
but something to that effect that it's like unique enough, but still really tall, still pays homage to Dragon Fire, but doesn't have that launch aspect that really sells it, like Pantheon.
So whatever Busch Gardens decides to do with that land, I'm just happy they're adding something because I know COVID put like kind of a halt to a lot of construction. And Drachen Spire, I think it was originally slated to open in 2022, so this
Mm-hmm.
summer,
Yeah.
because Pantheon was supposed to open back in 2020. That got pushed back to 2022. So yeah, Drachen Spire is getting pushed back to 2024. It's
Yep.
still exciting. It's still I'm amazed how much money SeaWorld Entertainment is spending on all their parks. I don't know where they're getting the money.
Yeah, for a company that was not able to pay off their coasters from 2019, 2020. Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
it's odd to me.
There's doubling down. So maybe
Hmm.
it might be paying off. I'm sure they're seeing big increase in revenue with customers coming in, but I don't
Yep,
know.
I think
It
so.
didn't
I mean,
work out for Six Flags.
no, no. And ironically, both companies tried to buy Cedar Fair and were not able to make it happen. So,
Right. Yeah. I know with the last few years they've done different, like they've done height testing where they'll send the height balloon up. They've done soil testing. So work is being done back there. They just requested a renewal for their height variance request. So that is good until
yep.
2024, I believe.
Hmm.
So there's still like the wheels are still in motion. Something's going to happen back there. So,
Yeah. And just to give credit where credit's due, a huge shout out to BGW fans
oh,
because
yeah.
they're the most intensive, like reliable source for any single park I think I've ever seen. Like
Yeah, I agree.
they just really somehow are able to get all kinds of dirt on stuff, and
Yeah.
it's I've really loved following them. So
Well, and I really like following them too because they're huge fans of Busch Gardens, I think.
right,
Um,
yeah, I
but
hope
they don't kiss ass to Busch Gardens.
exactly,
Like they're
exactly.
honest and they hold them accountable and they do something wrong and they will praise them when they do something good. So
Hmm.
definitely check out bgwfans.com. You can find a whole blog about Drachen Spire with like renderings of what the coaster should look like based on the schematics that have been found online.
Hmm.
All sorts of information. They even have a blog about Project Dark Coaster, which
Hmm.
is the rumored coaster going inside of the Dark Castle building that's there. So yeah, plenty of cool stuff to check out there. That's a free plug for them.
Yes, free, not sponsored.
Yeah.
Just go check out BGW fans.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, I really wish I got to ride Drachen Fire just to have it, the credit and to say I
Yes.
rode it because that's kind of one of those coasters that was around for such a short amount of time that, there's very few enthusiasts that can say that they rode it.
Yeah, I mean 6 years. That's very uncommon.
Hmm.
But I at the same time I'm okay that I didn't write it just based on what I've read about it.
Well,
So
I can guarantee it would have been a coaster that I rode once and that would have been it. Like
one
give
and
me
done. I mean,
credit.
just
Yeah.
it would have been like any other boomerang or
Hmm.
SLC for me. It'd have been like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Put that in the list. We're done.
Yeah. So if you were one of those lucky people that got to ride it, lucky you or unlucky
Hmm.
you, I guess, depends. happy to know that something's going to be coming there in the future. There's a lot of land there to use, and I really hope that they do pay homage to Drachen Fire, though, with the name,
Yeah.
with the theming.
Yep, I completely agree. I believe they're putting out like defunct merch for Drachen Fire, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. Like
yep, I've seen some.
they're really kind of pushing the, the nostalgia on a lot of those old fans. And so I hope that is kind of the precursor to what's to come. So we'll see.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Check us out at airtimemisfits.com. We got some stuff for sale, t-shirts, pins,
We have
other
prints,
prints, other various
pennants.
stuff.
Yes,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, pennants. Yep. So be sure to check that out. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Airtime Misfits. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Later.